How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Z Garage. And if you remember where we ended last week, that's where we're picking up this week. So the intake manifold is complete. I talked about it earlier, I guess in last week's video, how things just kind of weren't fitting exactly how I wanted. And I managed to go ahead and get that all solved. It's all welded up. Everything is looking really, really good. We need to go ahead and finalize the coolant routing for the radiator. That's the only unknown so far, but I think we'll be able to make it work. So I'll go ahead and show everything here later, but I'm happy. Everything looks really, really good. Clears the hood, clears the belt drive in front. So we should have a custom throttle cable coming for this, so we'll see if we can install that in this video as well. I went ahead and buttoned some other stuff up off camera, but this weekend, what we're gonna go ahead and work on is finishing the intercooler piping. We're really, really close to being done with that. I'm waiting on the bracket to actually mount the intercooler itself. But we can go ahead and finalize the piping. I gotta clean all of it out. It had oil in it from when I ran my last turbo. It wasn't optimally clocked for being a journal bearing turbo, and so it would kind of spit a little bit of oil through the intake. So we have a lot of oil and dirt everywhere that we really need to clean out because we don't want that going into our engine. So we got to go ahead and pull this all apart one more time and thoroughly clean it. And then I actually bought a bead roller. It's down here, so we can put some really nice beads on our all of our piping. Some of these are just like generic pieces that I bought on like Amazon, and then I cut them to length. When I cut them to length, at the time, I didn't have a bead roller, right? So I just kind of made indentations around the entire circumference so that it was just thicker and had something to grab onto. And I never blew off an intercooler pipe, which was, pretty surprising, honestly. But we have an actual bead roller now, so we'll go ahead and roll the bead on all of the pipes that we have here, make sure that it's very secure. I bought some new clamps, some high quality clamps, because the ones that you get in the intercooler piping kits are just garbage. So I've got some new clamps for that. Looking really, really good. I think we'll be able to knock that out pretty quickly. The second thing we're going to be working on this week, and I don't know if we're going to finish it this week or if it's going to go into next week, is the wiring harness. That is the one last thing, minus like fluids and stuff for the rest of the car, that we need to go ahead and finish. So the way that I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make like a separate video kind of showing a little bit more in depths, just in case you guys aren't, really looking for that at the moment. But we're going to have two harnesses, one being signals going back to the ECU, going through the firewall, and then the second being just power and ground. The reason that I'm going to go ahead and do it that way is because last time I built this harness, you can go find my video on that. I had power coming in and out and in and out and in and out. It led to just this really big, it looks like a spider web of harness, and it's just all one huge piece. Which is fine, but there's no modularity to it. So if I'm able to go ahead and split this out, what I can do is I can have all of the signals that I always know I'm going to need going to certain places. And then any powers and grounds that I need, those are going to be separate, so I can always change them up in the future if I need to. If it needs more power, if it's blowing fuses or whatever, and I want to put more pins into a plug for it, I can always do that. So this is going to allow me to have two harnesses that are not, combined at the hip, conjoined. So I think that is going to be a much better approach. We're making it much more modular this time, a lot more connectors, just so that if I wanted to swap out injectors, I don't have to redo the entire harness. I can go ahead and just redo those short little stub harnesses. So I'm looking forward to that. Again, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and do like kind of an overview here, and I'm going to make a little bit more of a detailed video as well for you guys if you're interested in what I'm doing. We are using some really cool parts this time. It's not quite as sealed as the last one I did, but we're also using some better wire, so it's kind of a trade-off. I think it'll be good either way. So that's pretty much it, guys. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it. I want to show you this intake because it looks so good, and it clears everything. Not quite like by a hair, but pretty much by a hair for the hood, and it gives us plenty of room for all the stuff that we need. So let's go ahead and jump in and look at it. All right, guys, so this is our nice new welded intake. I went ahead and used that 90 degree that I had at the end of last week's video. So I went down, cut it about halfway, a little bit less than halfway, because it was kind of already in a downward orientation. So we're right about 45 degrees, not quite perfect, give or take. And then I also had a 3/8 NPT bung welded on here for the intake air temperature. I think I've mentioned this before, but technically you want to put that before the throttle to avoid any heat soak, but I couldn't because I really don't have any space for it. So after the throttle is fine. It's how I ran it on my last setup, did not give me any issues, so I think that is just going to be okay. We have our idler control already in and our throttle control, or throttle sensor right here. And this is pointing down, unfortunately. It has to point in that orientation because it's like keyed. So it's a little unfortunate, but we can go ahead and make it work. It's not going to be that much of an issue. It's just 3 wires. And then on this side, I'm going to have to make a bracket for the throttle itself. So I put some holes on the back of this plate when I had it laser cut because I knew I was going to need to make a throttle cable bracket. So I did. So we'll make that up once I get the throttle cable in coming in tomorrow. So that should be really easy to do. Nothing too crazy there. I did go ahead and start mocking up the coolant hoses. If you remember, the stock routing, if it was going through this hole in the core support, it was interfering with the throttle. So I went ahead and took that out so that I could go ahead and get this set. And then I think what I'm going to go ahead and do with this is I'm going to keep the stock hoses, but instead of going through that hole there, I'm just going to go straight across underneath here. I actually reversed, I believe I reversed the direction of this hose, so it was like that way, and I flipped it around. That lets us go almost straight down here. I am probably going to trim that up a little bit because it does kind of kick out at the bottom there. And then I'm going to get a 90-degree fitting, and then I'll do a 90 over up into the sky, of course. So this will be pretty straightforward. We're going to have to watch for it when we're bleeding, but I do think I want to get a vacuum bleeder, so I think that will go ahead and solve that issue. So this is really good. I'm super excited with this. I think the next thing that we're going to go ahead and do is pull apart all of these intake pipes and clean them out because they are also full of dirt and grease and garbage. So I need to go ahead and clean everything here. I don't know if I'm going to film that because it's not super exciting, but I will show you guys the final setup once I get this all put back together. We really aren't missing that much. We just need that silicone intake coupler right there. And then I do need to cut some more pieces to make that side fit. But I actually think I have all the pieces on hand. So I'm going to go ahead and do all this, and then I'll fill you guys in after that. All right, guys, we made some really good progress since the last video that you saw. It has been about a week, which is why I haven't posted a video for last week, just because I really didn't have enough for you guys. But we got some really good progress done this week. So last weekend, I finished up the intercooler. Everything is looking really good. It's clean. It's, you know, kind of where it needed to be. And then over this last week, I got in my mounting bracket here. So you can see it connects with the hydraulic cylinder plates here and then bends up and is actually bolted onto the intercooler for support. This is my first time using 304 stainless steel, and it's a much stiffer material than I thought it was going to be. It's actually really hard to drill. Like, I drilled these holes for the intercooler because I didn't know exactly where they were going to be. And it was actually pretty tough to get a hole through there. So I appreciate how strong this is going to be. I do have round steel tube that I was planning on putting like right here across the front, because this top portion is already covered by the bumper itself. So that might be in the future, but probably not this video. But overall, I'm super happy with how this is mounted. Super secure, looks really good. Everything is slotted, so we can really get this intercooler dialed in perfectly in our in the front bumper like window, so it looks perfect. Super excited about that. Like I showed before, we got the blow off over here. I went ahead and kind of cleaned it up because it was a little dirty from sitting. Everything has nice brand new hose clamps on it. Looks really, really good, really secure. Like I think I've mentioned in previous videos, is I'm waiting on this silicone coupler. It's coming in today, so that'll be finally there, and that will actually round out the entire intake system. Once that's in, then we are good to go. So I'm looking forward to getting that installed. I think I'm not going to do any wiring in this video. I think I said at the beginning that I wanted to do some, but I'm going to go ahead and split it off into its own video. That way it's not split up, and that'll be next week's video for you guys. But that is next on my list today. But there's a few other things that this video is going to contain. One is the cooling system here. I started with that 90-degree bend right there. That's 1.5 inches. And what I actually need is a 40 millimeter. 1.5 inches is like 38 millimeters. So it's a little bit small, but I cannot find a 40 millimeter 90-degree bend. So either I will get a 40 millimeter pipe and cut it kind of like this and have it welded, or I will use the 38 and send it with a couple hose clamps on it. That is yet to be determined because I just haven't figured out if I want to actually do that or not. So fingers crossed we figure that out here soon. I went ahead and started getting the clutch and braking system back together. Not that there was much to do, but the clutch master is in, the brake master is in. The new line, if you can see right there, for the slave cylinder, that is the chase bays. I want to say that is a S13 2JZ CD09 conversion brake line. I'll put the actual, listing up here on the screen for you guys to see. But it's perfect length and it goes right to our transmission. So I'll go ahead, I have this end hooked up, obviously, that end still needs to be bolted on. And then we need to go ahead and finish up on the interior, putting the clips on for these guys to the pedals. But that's gonna be super easy. And then the next thing that I wanna tackle in this video is the throttle cable. So I gotta go ahead and knock out the old one right here. You can see mine is broken. If you can see, mine is broken. And that happens to a lot of Z31s. They just get very brittle. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out because obviously it needed to be longer. And I've got a new one over there. It should go ahead and work perfectly with our LS1 throttle body. And then that'll be that. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on some of that stuff and I'll let you guys know how it goes. All right, guys, we made some good progress on the transmission. I went ahead and connected the clutch line. That worked perfectly fine. The chase bays looks to be the exact length that we need for everything. So that was really good. I appreciated that that just kind of bolted on perfect. I also went ahead and replaced the transmission output shaft seal. I could only find the original Nissan part of that. So like Rock Auto didn't carry them. But I went ahead and just placed an order on Z1 Motorsports. I got the output shaft seal, I got the drain plug washer, and then I also got some transmission fluid. So what we're going to be running in this, I Googled it and everybody was recommending a 50-50 mix of MT90 and the MTL. They're very similar viscosities. This one's just a little bit lower. I think this is like a 85 and this is a 90 weight. So we've got enough fluid to fill our transmission there. So this is looking really good. And then I went ahead and put the front bumper back on after I put on that front piece. And this is just kind of like how it's looking right now. It is really, really good. I think we might shift it that way just a tiny little bit and then just kind of skew it just a tiny little bit. You can see the bottom row, it's exposed over here, but not over here. So this can be adjusted very, very easily. So I'm super happy with how this is looking. That is just, I'm just so happy. So front bumper is gonna be on. I think now that I've got the drive shaft in, there's no reason for me to have the car on jack stands anymore. So having it lower is just going to make it easier for me to be able to reach into the engine bay to get things. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take it off the jack stands now. We can go ahead and put the wheels back on. This fender, I actually have the jack stand kind of on the pinch weld where it sits. So it's never been flush. You can see, it has to come out a little bit right here. So taking this off jack stands will allow us to finalize the fitment on fenders and bumper. So I'm excited for that. So yeah, I'm super excited. All this is looking really, really good. And let's go ahead and get it off these jack stands. All right, guys, so I was getting the car ready to go on the ground, and I wanted to go ahead and put the bottom lip on real quick, because this looks really, really cool. I want to see what it looks like on the car, and I want to see how low this looks when it gets onto the ground. So I went ahead and held this up. It's got two M6 screws that go through into some inserts on the bottom of the bumper here. And then I think you're probably going to have to cut your own holes for other places to hold it up. But I was just going to use, tape for now. Anyway, if you look down here, when you get to flush with the bottom of the bumper, we have the intercooler sticking out there. And that's actually getting in the way of this little upright right here. So I think I'm going to have to trim this up just a little bit to kind of give space for the intercooler, the bottom tank here. Just because like this face here, if you can tell, is this face here. So we're just in the way a little bit with that tank right there. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this up. We might end up also having to trim off the bottom mounting hardware there on the intercooler itself. So we will see. Maybe we'll make it part of this whole assembly. We'll see. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead, trim this up. If you're obviously not using this intercooler, you're not going to have to trim it like me. This is just because of the intercooler that I'm using. So let's go ahead and get this on because I'm really excited to see how this looks. All right, guys, so I got the front lip on and it's looking really good. I wanted to go ahead and before I put it on the ground, do a quick run through of just kind of how it's attached, how it's fitting. So I think I showed you earlier the two screws that go in the front there. I only have them partially threaded right now because I don't know if you can see, there's, like a 1/4 inch of gap on the front here. I don't know what's kind of like stopping it from sliding back a little bit further, but I definitely need to work on that. The main reason is because these pieces that wrap around are stopping short of where the actual fender arch is, so we need to be able to push that back some more, and we don't have that ability to right now. So I need to go ahead and kind of work on the fitment of that just a little bit more. It's the same thing on both sides, so it's not like a one-sided issue. But, you know, it's looking pretty good. Let me go ahead and jump underneath and kind of show you how it's fitting up down there. All right, guys, so here we are underneath. You can see there is like lower diffuser built into here, so it looks pretty cool. But it's actually kind of hard to see with all the black paint. So this section right here, if you can kind of see it, that's where the original Undertray kind of slotted into. So you can see we have this piece right here that's up against, well, you know, not, oops, you guys can't see that, sorry. We have this piece right here that is kind of up against this frame rail. So we can definitely build some supports in here if we think that we need some. Like I said, currently it's just held up by the two in the front, which I don't particularly love, just because I want to make sure that this very expensive piece doesn't fall off. But, you know, there's plenty of other places that we can, you know, we could make a bracket kind of around the side here that holds up, oops, my precariously perched piece of tape. You know, so really plenty of good places to put stuff. It really doesn't interfere with much, but the one thing that I do like is this huge tray part right here. It's going to keep air going through the radiator stack instead of letting it out the back. So that is really, really nice, because I was kind of worried about how that intercooler is going to be kind of funneling things away from the radiators, but it will be okay. So this is looking really good. Obviously, you know, just these edge pieces here are really what we need to do some work on. But of course, my fenders are also kind of bent, so that might just be a me fitment issue as well. So like I said, yeah, this is looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and get this on the ground now, and we'll see what it looks like once it's low. All right, guys, well, I don't know if it shows up as much on camera, but this is looking so, so good. Even with those guys not quite fitting 100% perfectly. I am always amazed at how much lower this car is when it is not on jack stands. You know, this is normally, you know, midsection height, and I can't even touch it with my hand all the way down. So this is just a surreal moment, having all of these body pieces finally back together once again, and pretty much mostly fitting, you know, except for this gap here. So this is looking really, really good. If you guys missed the end of last week's video, we're going to be vinyl wrapping this instead of painting, just because I want to have as much time as possible to shake this down really well before we go to Branson Z-Fest. So paint would just take a little bit too long, unfortunately. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it. That'll be coming up, of course. But for me, the rest that I'm pretty much doing is, actually I still need to work on the throttle cable. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. I'll go ahead and tack it into this video, because why not? It's still the weekend. So yeah, but this is looking so, so good, and I'm really happy with it. So let's go ahead and tackle that throttle cable. All right, guys, so I'm working on the throttle cable, and I wanted to run you guys through this because I know that there's going to be some people asking how I did it. And it's actually a lot simpler than I thought it would be. So let's look at the old throttle cable real quick. It's right here. That end is the one that goes on the actual throttle itself, and then this end goes through the firewall and actually attaches to the pedal. So this little piece goes right, actually I have the pedal out as well, just because it was easier that way. So pedal sits like this, and then that ball and this white plastic piece goes through this little section right here, and then that's what pulls the cable, of course. And then this piece right here is the actual firewall like bracket that holds it on. You can see it's broken, obviously. To get this out, you have to squeeze these clips on top and bottom, and then either pull it out or push it out. But let's go ahead and just take a look over here real quick. What it does is it leaves you with actually a square right there. So it leaves you with a square hole in the firewall, even though it is a round grommet. So what I went ahead and did is I 3D printed some adapters here, and if you guys need them, let me know. This piece right here is going to adapt the throttle cable to the pedal, and then this piece right here, you can see it's square on one side and then flat on the other. This is going to be where the new throttle cable goes through the firewall. So the way that this new throttle cable works is this is the pedal side here, and then the other side is just a wire that you put a little, like, I don't know, nut on kind of. I'll show it later. But the new setup is going to be kind of like this, where we have the firewall piece, the square going through the firewall like that, and then this piece here is going to go around our new throttle right here. See if I can do it with one hand. All right, I readjusted kind of a little bit so you guys can see this easier, and I have two hands. But we have this piece that goes around here. Apparently I made it a pretty tight fit. Holds on like that, and now what we can do is stick this through the throttle cable here, or the throttle pedal, and it locates it in that piece here, so this can't slip out because it'll always be under tension.
and it gives us a nice secure little way of holding on. And then of course this guy is going to go through like this. I actually made it tight enough to where it threads on, and then this nut goes on the inside. This obviously goes through the outside, and then it tightens together, and that's how it holds to the firewall. So overall, pretty straightforward. I think this cable is like about 4 to 5 inches longer than the stock one is. So if you're looking for a slightly longer cable, I'm not going to link this one, but you can just find it. It's a generic 36-inch cable you can find on Amazon. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about this, let me know. If you guys need any of these files, let me know. I'm not going to put them on my store because this is a very niche thing to do, but just, you know, call me up and I can help you out. So these are looking really good. I'm going to go ahead and install them and see how it works. All right, guys, so I got everything installed on the pedal side and everything routed up around here to the throttle cable, or to the throttle body itself. And you can see what I mean. This is a 36-inch cable, and I wish there was one that was just slightly longer, because we're kind of, you know, straight bend over there and then underneath the intake and everything to get over here. We could go on top and make it a little bit shorter, you know, I mean longer as well. See if I can, it's pretty tight, so maybe not. So that's just gonna be one thing we're gonna consider. I might go ahead and just go over, because that'll be easy. I need to get the coil packs on there and just kind of see where they're gonna sit, make sure we're not gonna rub into anything. But the next step here is that we need to brace this side so that the cable underneath, like inside here, will actually move smoothly, and this is gonna stay still. So I went ahead and put in 2 tapped holes on the back of the throttle plate when I made it, so that we can go ahead and make a bracket. Probably going to go ahead and 3D print one, but eventually we're going to want this one in metal, just because this is kind of a high temperature area and it's going to be under stress. So we are going to want to go ahead and have a metal piece here. So something that is just proof of concept, and then we can probably get it cut and bent. So I'm going to go ahead and work on that, but this is kind of the setup for now. Like I said, I might go ahead and just move that on top just because, but I do need to take this manifold off so we can work on the fuel rails. But yeah, so this is looking pretty good. You know, it works. So it definitely does the thing that it should be doing. So I'm going to check this off my list. And speaking of fuel system, let's go ahead and actually jump into that, because actually, I don't know if I have it on me, but we're going to go ahead and take off the guy right there on that fuel rail and put on a new piece, and then hopefully our 6AN line will still fit. That way we don't have to make a new one. And then we need to start getting all the other 6AN lines kind of routed as well. I still haven't figured out where I'm going to mount the fuel pressure regulator. I think I used to have it on this tower right here, but I would like it to be in a kind of convenient spot. So we will go ahead and see. It does have a fuel pressure sensor on it. It's actually right here. So I have one of the low dollar Motorsport pressure sensors on it. And it is pretty important to just know fuel pressure. That can be super helpful, especially when tuning. So we're going to go ahead and put that on here still. You know, you can have the ones with the gauges, but I prefer a digital sensor. That is something we can definitely utilize to its full capabilities. So I'm going to go ahead and figure that out. Let's go ahead and take this manifold off and kind of get some of this stuff routed. All right, guys, I know I said I was going to work on the fuel system X, but I got distracted because I remembered something that I really wanted to do, and that was to change the place that the turbo gets oil from. So if you remember, the standard turbo oil feed is down under here. It's kind of hard to tell, but it's on that side of the block right there, next to where all the turbo and everything is, and that's where I had originally plumbed a 4AN line from, but because I want to go ahead and put AC down there, I needed to move it. So what I went ahead and did, and I'm sorry, you guys probably can't see any of this, but over here is where the oil pressure sensor is. I put a T on there so that I could use my sensor. And my sensor is, again, a low dollar Motorsport. It's a sensor. It's for pressure and temperature, which is extremely convenient as well. Just in case you guys are looking for good quality stuff. They just have really nice stuff. But yeah, so I put my sensor on there and then teed off another 4AN line, and it comes back and around. And of course, you can see it coming up onto top of the turbo right here. So that is what I just did. And then the port down there, I believe it is an M12 by 1.25. So you're going to want to go ahead and put a sealing plug in that. I used it's just a bolt plus an ORB fitting. So the original one that came out of there, see if I have it over here, it was just one of these. So this went into the block and then turned it into an AN so that I could go ahead and put a AN hose on it. But this had an ORB seal crush washer on it, and I went ahead and just took that and stuck it on an M12 bolt. I'm pretty sure it's M12. I'll put it up on the screen in case I was wrong. But I went ahead and put it on a bolt down here and put it into the block and tightened it down. So that should not leak oil. Of course, we're going to have to go ahead and inspect all of this for leaks when we're going ahead and starting it up, but that should be good. So what I want to go ahead and do, you may notice I removed the front bumper. I've readjusted this so that it's flat now in comparison, so we're not going to have kind of like a crooked row. But I took this off because I do want to go ahead and jack this up one more time and get underneath here so that I can get to that bracket on. Let me go ahead and grab the bracket real quick. I'll show you what it looks like. All right, guys, so here is the Z32 AC compressor bracket. It uses these 3 bolt holes right here to mount to the block, and that's actually the same pattern that's on the Z31, so we can go ahead and use this on ours. And then right up here is the pivot point for the AC compressor, and then of course we have a tensioner down here. I am going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit because it is obviously not in great condition, but this is how we're going to go ahead and put AC in our car. Basically, it's just going to fit right down in there. It's going to be a tight fit. I probably should have done this earlier, but I wasn't really planning on doing this, you know, like for sure, and now I am. So I'm going to go ahead and work on this. I actually, now that I'm staring at this, I don't know if everything's going to fit properly. I might have to go ahead and take some stuff off, so I'm going to work on that, and then I don't know what you guys are going to see next, so fingers crossed that something happens. I might go ahead and save this till tomorrow so that I can go ahead and clean it up outside and paint it, and then maybe we'll hack the fuel system. I'll do something. Let's go ahead and figure it out. All right, guys, here we are under the car. Hopefully it is, you know, clear enough for you guys to see. So I currently have 2 bolts in it, upper and lower. There's one more over there. I don't have long enough bolts. These ones are pretty long, so I need to go ahead and source some longer ones. But this is fine just for mock-up purposes. I also realized, see if I can get a view for you, right there in the center, right there. It goes through that front bolt hole as well, but it looks like it might need a spacer. It's a little bit off, so I have the bolt that came in that hole through there. That's the AC, or sorry, the not the. I can't remember what this is, the alternator bracket. It bolts to that little spot there. So might put in some washers just to space that off, and then we can use that as well. But you can see it's fitting. We might need to go ahead and clock the top of the wastegate a little bit, because this guy we can move. This guy, it's kind of a tight bend angle. It's not going to be the worst thing if we have to leave it right there, but it's definitely not ideal. So I might see if we can move that. I think I lost the wrench to actually take it apart, so I have to look for that and see if I can find it. But like I said, I don't think it's going to cause any issues, at least for the time being. So this is actually looking really good. I didn't think I was going to have enough room in here, but looking at this, and then the compressor is over here. It's right there. You can see it's covered in oil, but it's actually smaller than I was thinking it would be. So I think we're going to be able to use this and get away with it, you know, not have too many issues. So I will go ahead and clean this up more tomorrow. I'm glad that we kind of have this in here. I think if I drop the sway bar, I might be able to get it fit it through the bottom here, because I don't think I have enough room to actually put the compressor through the front. So I think that'll be the move to get it in here. Of course, I'm going to need to probably find some hardware for up there as well. But I think we're going to be able to get this done. So cool. This will be tomorrow's project, and I'm going to go work on the fuel system now.
All right, guys, I think that's actually going to go ahead and conclude this video. I was working on the fuel system, and I didn't actually have the right fittings. I thought it was a 3/8, and it's actually 1/4, so I'm going to go ahead and order the new ones. I'm going to do all the fuel stuff kind of in one go, just so that I'm in the right headspace, because I do find myself kind of scatterbrained, jumping back and forth between projects. So hopefully we can get all that done here pretty quick. I don't think that I have many lines to actually fabricates. I think most of it is just going to be reusing what I have already made before. I think I might mount the fuel pressure regulator in the same place, kind of on this strut tower, but we will obviously figure that out as well. But I did get my silicone coupler here for the intake. Fits perfectly on the throttle body. So the entire intake system is done, ready to go. So that's looking really good. Over this next week and next weekend, I'm going to go ahead and work on finishing out the wiring harness. I've started a little bit of it, but I just keep making these videos because I keep finding more stuff that's mechanical that I can work on. And wiring is just kind of a pain. You have to put a lot of mental thought into it to make sure you get things where it needs to go. So that will be next week's video for you guys. And then once we get that done, the car can start. I think the only thing actually that I have to do, I have to put in an oil cooler. I just have empty lines right now and it will just start shooting oil everywhere if I don't hook anything up to it. So I will make an oil cooler. So I think the videos for you guys is going to be wiring harness next week, and then the week after that, finishing up like fuel system, oil cooler, stuff like that. And then possibly, you know, I'm not going to say for sure, possibly in that video we will start the car. So 2 weeks from now, mark your calendars, the Z Garage is driving once again. So fingers crossed, guys, that this all goes smoothly. It's been going much better than I really anticipated, to be honest. And I'm super happy with the progress. I'm super happy with how the front bumper looks. I was thinking about that Undertray. If I can't get it to fit well wrapping around these fenders, I might not run it for Branson Z-Fest. It's going to give me a few extra inches of ground clearance. The bumper still looks great without it. So I might go ahead and just leave it here until I can really spend some time getting it to fit really well on it. But yeah, that's kind of my plan. I think that we're gonna be, you know, done with plenty of time here. So fingers crossed that I don't jinx myself, knock on a Z. And I think that's gonna be it, guys. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it as always. And drop any questions or comments you have down below. And I'll see you guys next time.